Brothers Grimm story called The Singing Bone. So if you're sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. It was a long, long time ago. There was a country that was being ravaged by a savage wild boar. No one dared go into the forest because of the savage wild boar. So the king issued a proclamation that anyone who could kill the wild boar would have his daughter's hand in marriage. It's very handy that kings have daughters, isn't it? So the news reached two brothers. And the two brothers, who came from a poor family, set off, prepared to risk life and limb to kill the wild boar and marry the king's daughter. So they set off into the forest, and one of them approached from the east and one of them approached from the west. And it was the younger of the two brothers who approached from the east. And as he was walking through the forest, he met a dwarf. This sounds a little odd because boar spears are kind of like 5 feet tall. They're all, they're over 5 feet tall. They're kind of as tall as I am. But the dwarf was carrying a boar spear, and he said to the brother, "You are of good heart. You are seeking to kill the boar because it is the right thing to do, because the boar is ravaging the forest. I will give you this spear. This is a magical spear. And I do wonder if perhaps it may even have been forged by the same dwarves who forged Odin's magical spear." Perhaps it was because dwarves are very, very long-lived, or perhaps it was forged by their sons or their grandsons, but certainly it was a magical spear. The other brother approached the forest from the west. The younger of the two brothers, for of course it's always the younger brother who is of good heart, isn't it? So the younger brother set out, and with the magical spear that the dwarf had given him, he did indeed kill the wild boar. And somehow he managed to lift the body of the wild boar onto his shoulders and carried it through the forest. And at sunset he came across a tavern, and he could hear inside laughter and conversation and people singing. And he went in the tavern, and there was his older brother. And so the two spent the evening eating and drinking, and perhaps joined in with the singing. And at the end of the evening, the two brothers set off together, carrying the body of the dead boar. And they crossed a bridge. And when they came to the bridge, the older brother stabbed and killed the younger brother and pushed him into the soft earth under the bridge, and it was there that he buried him. And the older brother took the body of the wild boar to the king and said he hadn't seen his younger brother and thought perhaps the boar had killed him. But he married the king's daughter and lived a life of ease and comfort. And time passed, and the younger brother's body rotted away until all that was left was a skeleton. So it was some years later that a shepherd driving his flock saw a bone sticking up from out of the soft earth beneath the bridge. And he thought, that's just the thing that I need as a mouthpiece for my pipe. So he took the bone and used it as a mouthpiece for his pipe. Because of course shepherds spend a lot of time alone and they like to play music. I imagine the sheep quite enjoy the music that the shepherds play. The shepherds certainly enjoy it. And when the shepherd began to play his pipe, it began to sing. This is a story called The Singing Bone. It began to sing, and it sang the story of how the older brother had murdered the younger brother and left his body to rot in the cold ground under the bridge. So the shepherd went to the king and told him this, and the king believed him and sent people to dig beneath the bridge, and there they found the kind brother's skeleton, which was taken to his home village and buried in the proper way. But knowing that his son-in-law by now was a murderer, the king had him beheaded. So the truth was told by the singing bone. So let us end with my little pipe and a lament for the younger brother. Handy little instrument, actually. There we are. Apparently a very, very old instrument, and yes, they can be made from bone. And apparently they do actually go back to the Stone Age. I rather like that idea, actually. You know, in the Stone Age, people were making tools out of flint and instruments out of bone, but probably also out of wood, I think. There we are. What the story doesn't say is what became of the dwarf. But I rather like the dwarf in that story. I hope you do too. So do subscribe to my channel and do check out some of the other Brothers Grimm stories, because there are lots of Brothers Grimm stories which don't get told very often. Hope to see you again soon, and do check out the Brothers Grimm Facebook group.